Hi everyone, Nicole Littman here with Aurelian Coaching Weekly. Thanks for joining this week. This week we are talking about everything that can go wrong. We're talking about beautiful, beautiful strategy that gets ruined, that gets sunk because of implementation issues, okay? And the reason this came up is I was talking to a bunch of colleagues and we were kind of swapping stories about things that had gone really well and things that went horribly and what lessons we've learned from it. And, it was really interesting. There was an observation that nobody was talking about bad strategies. It was all bad implementation, like things that went wrong that we learned from. Looking back, there's nothing wrong with the vision that we had and the strategies that we were trying to pursue. It was implementation. And here is what I thought about later, that a bad strategy is very easy to point out or to unveil pretty early on, right? Because strategies, what do they say about strategies? They should be really simple and really straightforward. Like if you were to explain a strategy, the other person you're explaining it to should be able to say, yeah, I get that. That makes sense, right? But here's the thing about implementation. Implementation can be masked, right? If it's bad implementation, sometimes you can't tell at first, right? And you keep implementing in a poor way until it blows up, right? And then at that point, it's like, oh, well, that didn't work out well. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about today. And this is true if you are running companies, if you're running divisions, if you're running just your little team. Listen, this stuff works if you're just trying to run yourself, right? If you have a strategy for getting ahead on a job or for work-life balance or for starting a family or for learning that, taking that art class or whatever it is, right? Beautiful, brilliant, perfect strategies can be completely sidetracked and laid to waste with poor implementation. So listen up. This is what I want to talk about today. There are only three different ways that implementation can go wrong. Okay? I want to talk about those today. And the thing is all you really need is to be able to identify that implementation issue is happening. Okay, because once you can see that, oh, this is how it's going wrong, the answer to course correct is usually pretty obvious. Okay, and it's going to vary for whatever strategy, whatever project, whatever circumstance you find yourself in, right? If you are able to identify the particular implementation issue, okay, great. Now you can fix it. But a lot of times people just go and go and go, and then it blows up, and then they say, oh, well, that didn't go well, right? Okay, so implementation issue number one. The people involved, yeah, they're not on board, right? They're not on board, right? You need to get others on board. Okay, now a couple of things about this. Recognize that if you have a brilliant strategy, it's often not enough. I'm so sad to tell you. Sometimes the brilliant strategy on its own and whatever rationale that you have to support that strategy is often not enough to get other people lined up and supporting it. Okay? Logic, rationale, reason, these things, no. Being bought in to something is a very emotional thing. People are emotional beings. So you can have the most beautiful strategy and sound rationale supporting it, and people are still going to be resistant. Okay, so make sure that if the people are not lining up, that you can address the emotional aspects of what they're going through and what their response is to that strategy, right? Now, again, implementation issues can be masked, right? So it's very rare that people come to you and say, I'm just not on board with this. Now, if they do that, awesome, extremely mature, that's fantastic, right? And you can address that. But a lot of times, the lack of people being on board with a strategy will manifest in lots of different ways. The people are not following through, they're not showing up, you're not getting a lot of engagement, right? So when people are asking a lot of questions, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Because asking questions is the process of people emotionally getting used to an idea, organizing it in their mind, and getting on board. So if you get radio silence, guess what? They are not on board, okay? It's not because they understand the rationale of the strategy and they accept it. Probably not. You want a lot of engagement. Okay, so implementation issue number 2 is poor execution. So what do I mean by that? I mean adherence to a project plan, right? If you have a strategy, you need to have specific steps to get there, to realize the goal or objective. And when that is not being executed well, guess what? It's not going to work. Now, some people say, oh, that's so obvious. Thanks, Nicole, for that brilliant insight. Here's what I'm actually talking about when I am talking about lack of brilliant execution to match a brilliant strategy. I'm talking about shortcuts. And you may not even define them as shortcuts, but they are shortcuts. So here are a couple of examples. One is something in the project plan is, once you're in it, is interpreted as a minor thing, right? So it was supposed to be handled at this point in time, and there was rationale for that in the project plan, right? But now people are saying, well, we're trying to get to all this other stuff. This we will handle it later. Okay, going to handle that later. Number 2 is when there's an error or a mistake that needs to be fixed. And that is also something that's either, you put a Band-Aid on it for now and you're going to address it later, or because it's not a dependency, you put it off till later also. It's like, oh, that was a mistake, but it's not a critical one. It's not on the critical path. So actually, let's go ahead and finish all this other stuff and then come back around to that mistake and fix it. Okay. Here's the third one. When, for whatever reason, no judgment, good, bad, indifferent, someone on the team can't fulfill some aspect of this, right? So if Johnny can't execute on his portion, Sally is going to step in and fill in the gaps. Okay. Yeah, maybe, right? In the moment, that might seem the right thing to do because really, we just got to get it done, right? Johnny can't do it. Sally volunteered to do it. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, so all of these are examples of things where the implementation will, it has so much potential to go wrong. I haven't seen a project plan yet that has as much leeway as we need if we are making these types of changes. right? If we're putting things off till later, if we're not addressing errors or mistakes at the root, if we're switching up roles and responsibilities on the fly just to kind of get through it, okay. A lot of project plans, even with the best intentions, okay, even if you give yourself some leeway, some cushion, whatever you want to call it, on the back end, it never works out the way. You never have as much time to fix those errors and to pick up all the slack that Johnny couldn't handle, or to address the thing that was minor before and now it's not so minor, right? So I strongly encourage people to put together project plans that are thoughtful, and you're being very mindful about where things can go wrong and what the dependencies are, and address things in the moment. Don't keep putting it off, right? Because it's probably not going to happen the way you hope it is. Okay, so number one was people buy-in. Make sure you respond to their emotional reaction to a strategy and address that to get their buy-in. Number two is brilliant execution. If you have a brilliant strategy, make sure you have brilliant execution to back it up. Number three, the number three implementation issue that I see, and this is a big one, it's when people get new and better information that points to the original strategy not being the right one. And people don't pivot. They don't follow the new, better information. It's amazing. I get it. It's hard, right? It's hard. You've already put all this time and all this money down one channel, and it's really hard to say, oh, well, that wasn't right. We were wrong. And now we need to do it this way. If we want the strategy to serve that ultimate purpose, right? If we want to hit our goal, we need to have the right strategy to hit our goal. And this one, with the information that we had at the time, we were good to go. But now things have changed. Things have changed. It's really hard because sometimes you were the one that had to sell the strategy. It has your name all over it, okay? And there's embarrassment and uncertainty and shame in having told everybody the wrong thing. Now you're telling them, well, this is the right thing. Oh, it's hard. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but here are the two options. Either you keep going down that path, right? Because that's what you said was right, and everybody agreed and supported, right? And you keep going and you ignore the new, better information. So this is kind of the cross your fingers approach, right? Well, maybe maybe information will change again, so let's just keep on this path. Or maybe the team just needs to work harder. Oh, it's the what ifs where you're ignoring the new, better information, and you're putting blinders on, and you're taking a cross your fingers approach. Well, that path, we know how that's going to end, right? Because the new, better information tells us how continuing down that path is going to end. So the other option is to be a grown-up, right? We are all professionals here. We're all mature. We're all grown up. And we have to say, yeah, I was wrong. Now, with the information that I had at the time, it sounded great, right? But look at this. This we cannot ignore. Is it going to cost us more time? Yeah. Is it going to cost us more time, more money? Yeah, probably. Is this painful? Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's painful. Is it the right thing to do? Does pivoting on our strategy serve that larger purpose? If the answer is yes, then you need to pivot. Okay? So those are the things. You've got to be aware of these implementation issues, because these are the things that at first it's not going to be so obvious. You need to keep an eye out for these things. Okay? The strategy stands, but if you don't have people buying in, if you have poor execution, if you're making excuses along the way, right? Or just saying, I'll fix it later, okay, danger, right? Or if you're getting new information and it's telling you a different story, okay? These are all things you need to pay attention to, okay? So pay attention to those implementation issues. And then when you guys are networking in the future, you have beautiful stories of how the brilliant strategy and the brilliant implementation came together, and it's a wonderful success story, okay? Pay attention to those things. So if you are a part of the Aurelian Skill Masters group, tomorrow in your email inbox, you're going to get a summary of this and also a tool, a worksheet to help you think through these things, help you identify those things, because you're going to be in the whirlwind, the day-to-day whirlwind, and it can be really hard to identify exactly what's going wrong. So you need to be able to practice that. So that tool will help you do that. Next week, we are going to be talking about a mindset issue rather than a work implementation issue. We are going to be talking about assertiveness. This has been coming up in a couple of different ways, a couple of different channels in my work and with my clients. So I wanted to talk about, a lot of people understand assertiveness is not aggressiveness. Those are totally different things. People can even articulate the difference between the two. But when it comes to action, people often have a really hard time in starting to initiate a conversation, to be assertive, in how to begin that process of being assertive on something in particular that makes them really nervous. So even though theoretically people understand the difference between assertiveness and aggressiveness, when it comes down to brass tacks, people are really nervous about being too aggressive. So we're going to talk about, from a very practical standpoint, how to approach assertiveness, okay? And how to, what the mindset is, and some strategies that you can use so that you can walk that fine line where you can kind of push the envelope but not be seen as aggressive or not interpret your own actions as aggressive. So that's next week. One other thing that I want to talk about is I recently launched the Job Prime program. So you can go to jobprimeprogram.com and you can see a new service line. This is centered on preparing people who are looking for opportunities to do some job repositioning, right? Some even more formal career pivoting. So you've been working in one industry for a really, really long time. You're kind of getting burnt out on that. Or maybe it was something that you were really interested in before, and now that you know a lot more about it, it just doesn't fuel your passion. You're looking to make some more significant changes. This is a specific program that I've outlined that I've walked many, many clients through, but I'm just formalizing it now. So if you're interested in job repositioning, in career pivoting, go to jobprimeprogram.com. I'll put it in the notes for this Facebook Live, and check it out. The other thing is I'm going to be at 2 upcoming job fairs here in the San Francisco area, Job Fair X. One is going to be Tuesday, October 9th, and the other one is going to be Tuesday, December 4th. So far, I am going to be the only career coach at these job fairs, and I am going to be doing free coaching. I will have a booth next to all the other employers. If you want me to coach you through how to, these sort of mini interviews that you have when you actually approach an employer booth. If you want me to look at your resume, cover letter, other things like that, I will be there. So if you're going to be there, Job Fair X, October 9 and December 4, shoot me an email, tweet at me, contact me through social media, and I would love to meet up while you're there. Okay, so have a great week, guys. I hope you found this information helpful. Next week, we are going to talk about assertiveness. So join us then, same time, same place. Have a great week. Bye-bye.